Excellent. So good morning and welcome everyone. So today we have a very special session where we are basically launching our first Africa Caribbean Connect through our CCRAF platform. So my name is Nikelia Greg-Wakarai. I'm a technical specialist in soil and water management with ICA, and I'm from Dominica. So it is indeed a pleasure to have all of you join us and to also have our speakers from both the Caribbean side and the Africa side joining us today to speak on a very important topic, the soil. So as we're going ahead, right. So as I said, everybody is muted, so just please feel free to, drop your country flag in the chat. You are muted, so once we reach the discussion session, you could raise your hand, you could put your questions in the chat, and we will unmute you. The session will be recorded. Of course, we're from across the Caribbean region and across Africa, so feel free to turn on your camera so we can see the various faces of the persons joining us today. And so just to give you a little background about the CCRAF, it's the Caribbean Climate Responsive Agriculture Forum, which started in 2015 by my colleague Chani and some other colleagues from ICA and some of the partners. And so the key objectives for us, we noticed that within the agriculture sector that while there was a lot of knowledge, some of it may not have necessarily been relevant or translated within the Caribbean context. So that platform was built to share knowledge on resilient agriculture practices, those that are practical, applicable for the region. Of course, in anything that we do, we look to build a community of persons that are engaged. If persons are not interested in something, then eventually it will die out. And so, building that community of persons who are interested, persons who are engaged in it. And of course, that helps us to enhance collaboration. Many times, when we go into a room and we're discussing, implementing various actions, initiatives, one of the key things that tend to come up is that there's not enough collaboration. And so, if we're sharing knowledge, if we're working as a community, that enhances the level of collaboration because now we're building things in the similar vein, in the similar direction. And so, but important for us too, while, sharing the knowledge is important, having those webinars, panel discussions, etc., to really address the challenges within the sector, we need the action. And so one of the key things under the CCRAF is translating that knowledge that we share, while practical, we want to translate it to actual action on the ground, be it through persons themselves taking part in the virtual sessions and translating it within their work like extension officers. So what we would have done within the CCRAF, we have what we call the CCRAF on the road, and we go to various countries where we do those on the ground, hands-on training on the farm, in the field with persons. So this is in a nutshell the CCRAF. Of course, we do have a number of platforms if you want to know a bit more about us, follow, like, and so you can keep updated, access past sessions. But we will focus on today, which is really special for us, connecting the Caribbean and African knowledge so that we can learn from each other. And of course, focusing it on one very important aspect of the agricultural sector in terms of production, which is the soil. And so today we are looking at why soil changes everything. We are reframing soil as the foundation of climate, food and water systems and development. So thank you all for joining us for part one of our Africa Caribbean Connect. And so with that, I will pass you on to Zinzi, who will provide you some more details. And so today we are collaborating with Marete and Zinzi from Allure of the Soil to bring you this very important and interesting session. Over to you, Zinzi.
Thank you so much, Nikelia. And I'm loving the responses that I'm seeing from where people are from. So I am from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm seeing we have, people from Kenya. I'm seeing we have people from, the Caribbean, Trinidad, Tobago, St. Lucia. So it's really exciting. And I think the essence of what this Afro-Caribbean sort of partnership we want to create and take forward. I'm with the Allure of Soil. I work as a regional programs coordinator. Sorry about that. My colleague Maretta will go into more about the Allure of Soil and our campaign and our kind of projects that exist under our campaign. I'm coming in to, yeah, sort of just give context to what we are trying to do here today. We really want this to be an interactive session. And so feel free to use the chat box, you respond on any reflections or points that you may have. The Q&A function is also really available for you to use, where you can ask any questions to the speakers. And we also, because we want this to be interactive, we're going to use some polls, live polls, and we want to do that actually at the start. And so I am going to launch into our first poll. And the question here will be, if soil disappeared tomorrow, what would fail first? So I believe it should have come up on your screens, and some option the responses here were climate regulation, water systems, food systems, cities and infrastructure. I'm seeing, yeah, some responses coming in. Food system seems to be top of everyone's mind of what would disappear first. We're at 56%. Water systems also quite a strong contender.
Yeah, the food systems is really leading it there, followed by the water
Exactly, yeah.
systems. We have a little tight competition between climate regulation and cities and infrastructure, but food systems over 50% there, 52% there is taking it.
And I'm seeing also some responses on the chat. Santos, you've said climate regulation. And then a next response, food systems. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I will pass it on to my colleague Marette. Um, Let me just, yeah, share the results to you all.
Thank you, Nzinzi. Good afternoon, good morning, and depending on where you're joining us from, possibly a very committed early morning. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for choosing to spend the next 2 hours with us. It means a lot to us. So my name is Mariette Salvin. I am a documentary filmmaker. I am a storyteller, and I am the campaign lead for the Allure of Soil. So what's the Allure of Soil? We are a campaign that aims to illuminate the critical role climate change and development to bring the problem closer home. Those who are not farmers,
Marete, you're breaking
who are
up a bit,
not
so maybe
scientists, who are not agronomists and do not interact with soil, but yet we are affected by it every day. And how do we do this? We do it through stories, because storytelling is the tool that I and my team possess as journalists. Is that okay?
it has improved now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're good now, but maybe
Okay.
you may have to eventually cut your camera in case we're breaking up again. But go ahead, it's a little better now.
Awesome. That sounds good. Networks, they humble us all the time. So it's how we're doing this is we're doing it through webinars like this, and we're super excited that we are collaborating with ICA to bring this to you. We have collaborations with other organizations as well. We are not here to reinvent the wheel, but also be a bridge to the knowledge that is already in existence and bring it out. So we're more or less like a bridge. We also do farm tours locally here in Kenya. And we're looking to do more stories around people who work with soil and tend to the earth because it's really, really necessary. So you're joining us here today for Wild Soil Changes Everything. And yes, we mean everything, not just farming, not just the environment. We are talking climate, water, food systems, even the stability of the ground beneath our cities, literally and figuratively. Because soil is not just dirt, it's a living infrastructure. It's the quiet engine powering resilience. And if we understand it better, we can make smarter decisions across every sector. So today, the session is about reframing, reconnecting, and rethinking together. And since today, this is a very interactive, interactive session. And we've seen through the poll that food systems is on top, we're seeing, and others follow. But by the end of this session, you might find that it's not a question of which fails first, but how everything is connected through the soil. So everything is interlinked, and the foundational resource is soil. So welcome once again. And without further ado, we're going to welcome our first speaker, who is going to bring us to the science of soil and what makes soil such a superpower. And to do that is Dr. Chani Saint Martin, who is an international technical specialist in water and soil management at Inter American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. He has done quite a bit. You can see his profile. I'm not going to read through the whole thing so that we can just go straight to the meat. But one statement on on his bio is he describes himself as a far positively impacting people, impacting lives. Dr. Chani will walk us through what's happening beneath the surface, from the carbon storage to water regulation, and why ignoring soil might be the biggest blind spot in climate solutions today. Over to you, Dr. Chani.
Yeah, good day and good night, good morning to all the persons that have joined us. It is indeed a pleasure. One thing you could count on when we talk about soil is the passion and the interconnectivity. So I thank you. It is something that is very, very important to us, not just in terms of its effect on the world, but also we as an institution pay particular attention to it as the request from our member countries. So soil and natural resources as the base of not only food systems, but also the ecosystem functioning, the entire biosphere and all of the spheres remain very, very, very important to us. And I want to start by acknowledging the contributions that ICA and other institutions and persons would have made as it relates to the soil health, and everything soil and soil related. So it gives me great pleasure to start off the session. If you allow me, I would probably go too much into the session and go without thing. We soil scientists are passionate about that. So I'm hoping that somewhere in there, the moderators could perhaps temper me a bit with both my passion. One of the things that we celebrate a lot, we have been working on that Africa and also Caribbean connection. We very much appreciate that the story of soil is not just an issue of the science of the soil. That is critical, and we definitely, as an institution that forwards technical cooperation, that is important. But the simple message is that soil is everybody's business, and everybody's connected to the soil no matter where you are. And that for us can come through science, it has to come through culture, it has to come through storytelling. And so we are very excited to actually partner with ULR and the other institutions here to actually go through that. And so I wanted to just start off with a big thank you, and I'm here to try to answer most of the questions that you would want to ask within my time limit. And so I turn over to you, Marite, after this brief introduction. Marita, let me know if you could go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm going to keep my video off because my network is fluctuating on and off. So I think the first question would be, what allows soil to store carbon and manage water effectively? Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you. I heard you. I think one of the things is main thing is let's start off by saying that the storage of carbon in soils is not only a soil thing, and this is the thing that is very interesting and important about soils. It really involves an interaction. It really involves an interplay between almost all of what we call the biosphere of the earth, with the soil and more so the plant being that critical bridge connecting some of these spheres. So, for example, in that storage or that cycle of storage, we have the atmosphere, we have the biosphere, which is where the living things are, we have the hydrosphere, which is where the water is, we have also the lithosphere, which is the rock, and we also have that critical element which connects everything together, which is the pedosphere, which is the soil layer. That thin layer that is on top of that, across the lithosphere, is where the magic happens and where the science occurs here. And so what happens is that you have an interplay between all of that, and even in this particular sphere, the speedosphere, which is the soil, you have atmosphere in the soil, you have living things, you have water in the soil. So it really connects all of these spheres. And that is why, Marietta, you're so accurate when you started by saying the interconnectedness of all of these things, the living things. So let's give the most classical example that most of us would have learned growing up. You have that carbon that is in the air in the form of carbon dioxide. You have a plant that takes it in for photosynthesis. It uses it and it translates it. Some of that goes into the root. Some of it is released through the roots as chemicals, as some in some form, molecules. And you have the microorganisms now that are feeding on it, and they use it, and they also die, they live in the process, and they incorporate it into the soil itself, where it becomes part of or attached to the mineral part of the soil and actually protected inside of that. So you have this process happening where it involves moving from the atmosphere, moving from that to under the ground. You have microorganisms involved in it, and you also have, just like your skin, when you shed skin, the roots are shed in soil. You have the plants that are decomposing, and all of that goes into the soil. Now that carbon will only be stored, or the net storage, which we call it, if you are getting more carbon than you are losing carbon. So think of it like a bank account. Your bank account is only going to grow if you are getting more input than you are spending. And so therefore, there are processes that will add to that bank account, and there are processes that will take out from it. One of the things, like the practices, the incorporation of organic matter over time, it will add to it. The removal of roots, for example, will minus from it. The whole issue of some kind of tillage, rigorous tillage, will tend to minus from it. So this is how the carbon is really stored in the soil. It is really that relationship that we are very familiar with, input, storage, minus from it, that causes that to happen. As it relates to the water, and this for me is very fantastic, as it relates to the water, that regulation and that water holding, or that role of the soil in water, really hints on the soil architecture. When we say that, and yes, the soil has architecture, yes, the soil has networks as well. When we say the architecture, we are talking about these pores, just like the pores that are on your skin, these little pores that are in the soil because of how the minerals are stacked or arranged. You have large pores, you have medium pores, you have small pores. And when you have these large pores, it's easy for the rain to come in and infiltrate. When you have smaller pores, it's easy for the water to actually, these spaces to hold the water, just like you drop water into flour and it absorbs it. And the medium-sized pores actually performs a balance of the two. So guess what? When you have different organic matter, it tends to regulate these size and causes what we call a pore network, meaning that it now affects the storage of the water, the release of the water, and also the use of the water by the microorganisms. So in essence, you're looking at a system that really is interconnected, and the soil being some of that major interface for both carbon and also water and other nutrient cycles. Over. I hope that was clear.
Oh, fantastic. That's we've already seen it's a climate regulator and the guardian of water. The next question would be, why are the current climate and water solutions, some of them are less effective, and when soil health is ignored? Where do you think that we should pay more attention to when it comes to coming up with solutions to regulate climate as well as manage water?
I think it comes back to a similar concept that I would have just shared there. The critical thing is, and I'll be very, very exact with some examples. If you have irrigation and you have water, and you can have the best water, best quality water, the most efficient irrigation system. If it is going to be administered to the soil, and that's where most of our food come from in any case, and the soil is cracked, it is waterlogged, it has a problem that prevents the movement of water and the access of that water to the plants, then the best irrigation system comes to naught. If you have the most drought tolerant variety, crop variety, and you place it into the soil, and then the soil also has an issue in terms of the availability of nutrients, the pH, etc. There is not a lot of interface between the roots and also the nutrient pools. Then again, you could have the miracle droughting. You are not going to get the effect that you want it to have. And that example could go on. If you go best fertilizer regime, and if you want to look at the most nutrient efficient uptake, and you don't have the soil biology, you don't have these things in the proper balance, again, guess what? You're not going to get the effect or the outcome that you wish for. And so therefore, it really positions soil as the foundation or the augmenter, the receiver of these things to allow an entire system to profit from it, to be built, the benefits to accrue. And that is really the interplay or the importance of soil here. It's not only as a regulator, it's also a storehouse, it's multifunctional, it's actually an amplifier as well. That is a foundational thing if we want the effects that we are looking forward to.
Yeah. And this is just, I'm just going to throw the spanner to the wheel. If policymakers truly understood soil as a living infrastructure, what decisions would immediately change and which systems would be forced to shift? So that then if soil is at the center, then what's the change that we need to see to fully say then we're coming up with solutions that are working 100% or 99%?
Oh, great, man. I always get into a little trouble for that. If we really understand the value of soil, then we would think that there's no difference between air and soil. And I say that and I match it up, is that every breath that you take, it is related to soil. Every water molecule that you drink, soil is somewhere there. And so if you really understand that the seriousness of work and action in soil would be treated with the same seriousness as water, as air, as the financial thing there, because you come to realize that not only the life of human beings, but the entire ecosystem, that thin layer is dependent on it. And so if you really understood this, this would be your central focus. You would be making policies that are really on this particular thing here because it becomes so precious. So your value system would change. Your value system will change where you're seeing this as a resource. You're also seeing this as an asset. You're seeing this as fully embroidered or embedded in both the economics, the social, etc. So you're seeing that, which is what nature is about. And so therefore, there will be no discussion as to whether it needs to be protected, whether it needs to have a policy, whether we need to monitor it and keep the health of it just like the health of us. We would understand that our health is also a reflection of the soil health. And so therefore, that value system, that mindset would change, and we will put it there. And that's not only for soil, but because soil has all of these critical elements, the air inside of soil, water is inside of soil, mineral inside of soil, the rock is inside of soil, it creates that marriage, that interlink between everything in the biosphere. And therefore, if you're not going to create a policy for that or action it for that, I don't know what else you'd want to create a policy or action for. Over. I think you're on mute, Artie.
That's very insightful, and I'm saying there is really nothing else to add on to that. It's very fascinating. The more we continue learning more about soil, you realize that it's a story about soil, but it's really the story about us as people, who we are, and the essence of us. So moving from you, Dr. Chani, thank you so much for the wonderful reminder that soil isn't just passive. It's constantly working to work to ensure that the climate is regulated, the water is guarded, and even our nutrients as a keeper of our nutrients, and it matters to every one of us, and it's our business. It's everybody's business. So now that brings closer the conversation home onto farms, communities, and into everyday realities of food systems. And the question you're asking is, what if soil health is actually the most honest indicator of whether our food systems are truly working? And to help us unpack that is Mercy Karunditu. She's the Director of External Relations and Advocacy at Trees for the Future. Mercy works directly with farming families, bringing perspective that connects lived realities with system-level thinking. Mercy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Marete. It's really great to be here. I'm Mercy Karundito from Trees for the Future. I'm based in Kenya and work across East Africa, and I spend most of my time with small farmers on their land. So when I talk about soil today, I am talking about what I see happening on the ground every day. When we talk about food systems, we often start with crops, what we grow, how much we produce, but everything actually starts much deeper than that, literally in the soil as a living ecosystem. Because this is the soil, because if the soil fails, everything above it eventually fails too. At Trees for the Future, we work with smallholder farmers to build what we call forest gardens. These are diverse farming systems where trees, crops, soil, all work together, very differently from monocropping systems that rely heavily on external inorganic inputs. Across East Africa, we have seen this forest garden approach reach 10,000 of smallholder farmers and restore large areas of degraded farmland. But more importantly, we have seen what happens when soil begins to recover and heal. Back to you, Marete.
Oh. Maybe you could share some examples of works that you've done where you've seen yields have more increase because the farmers or the smallholder farmers have changed the way they grow their food and what they've integrated into and what you've seen working and being more effective when it comes to food system and the changing of livelihoods.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me make that real with one example. A smallholder farmer named Abeli in Tanzania was working on land that was extremely dry and exposed. Without tree cover, his farm was vulnerable to weed, to heat, to animals. The soil was hard, degraded, and not very productive. Working with our program, he began planting trees, over 2,000 of them, including fast-growing species to create living fans. These are some of the species include Acacia polycantha, Cariandra, Rusina tricandra, and other shrubs like pigeon pea to restore nitrogen to the soil. He also started composting and using integrated natural pest management. And over time, something important happened. What changed wasn't just what was growing above the ground. The real transformation was happening in the soil itself. The soil, which has been dry and unproductive, became softer, richer, and full of organic matter. And once that shift began, everything else started to follow. Because when farmers integrate trees into their land, a few things happen. Root helps hold the soil in place. Leaf litter feeds it. Shade protects it from extreme heat. Water is retained more effectively. And over time, the soil begins to rebuild itself. And when the soil improves, everything else follows. Yields increase, diet diversify, and income stabilize. We have seen farming families increase their food security significantly through this kind of transformation. One farmer told me recently, I did not believe a small garden could feed my family, but now it does. That is the power of restoring soil. And it is not just about productivity. Healthy soil creates resilience. We see farms that used to flood begin to absorb more water effectively. We see crops survive longer into dry periods. We see farmers harvesting when neighboring farms have failed. In regions facing increasing climate pressure, that resilience is everything. There's also an economic dimension that is starting to emerge. As soils recover, they store more carbon, and that opens the door of new income streams for farmers through carbon markets. Back to you, Marete.
With your experience and having that you work with communities and different communities at that, where do you see the biggest disconnect between our food systems and how our food systems are designed at policy level, and what's happening in the soil on the ground, and what needs to change fast?
Thank you so much. The beautiful things I have talked about only works if those systems are designed around farmers, if the value actually reaches them, and if the timelines match the reality of how that restoration happens. Because this is where we start to see some important disconnects. Despite what we know is working on farms, the broader system doesn't always support it. Allow me to highlight a few mismatches. First, there is a time mismatch. Soil restoration takes years, sometimes decades. Farmers understand that, but most funding and programs operate on short timelines. That slows progress. The second mismatch is incentive mismatch. Many systems still reward monocropping and heavy input use, but farmers themselves often want to diversify and build more resilient systems if the incentives allow it. That these are measurement mismatch. We are very good at measuring inputs and yields, but we are much weaker at measuring what actually sustains agriculture long term, namely soil health, biodiversity, resilience. And yet, those are the things that determine whether farming systems survive. The encouraging thing is that this is starting to shift. We are seeing governments and partners begin to integrate agroforestry and soil restoration into national programs, placing more emphasis not just on planting trees, but on keeping them alive, on rebuilding the systems and supporting farmers over time. And we are proud to work alongside farmers and partners in helping them move that forward. So we can say soil changes everything. We may say that soil changes everything, and that we mean literally. It changes what farmers can grow. It changes whether families can feed themselves. It changes how communities respond to climate shocks. And if we get soil right, we don't just improve agriculture, we build up. That is the work we are part of every day, and it starts quite simply beneath our feet. Back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mercy. You've touched on policy. You've touched on the financing. What is it that other people who are not farmers, who are not interacting with soil every day, what is it that we are missing, and where should we? And so that we reconnect. As we said, soil is everybody's business. It's not just the farmer's business. It's everybody's business. We need to talk about it. We need to learn more about it. We need also to realize how connected we are to it, because we are soil, if you think about it deeply. So what do we need to change as the consumers from this other end to be supportive of what already the farmers that you've been working with are doing when it comes to soil restoration?
Yeah, thank you so much. There is need for greater advocacy regarding the benefits of the regenerative agriculture, minimum tillage, cover cropping, intercropping to improve soil resilience. And that is what Trees for the Future Forest Garden approach promotes. We have underfunding in extension services, also inadequate training and personnel to disseminate climate-smart soil management techniques to farmers. In that regard, therefore, we need to allocate more resources to extension services and do more training for the extension officers. A gap Trees for the Future has filled in East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mercy. So we've just learned quite a lot, and you're doing fantastic work with Trees for the Future, working with farmers, families, and communities. So it really underpins that we can't separate the work you're doing with everything else. So next we'll have our next speaker, who is Rico Rao. Rico Rao is the Rico Rao works with Save Soil. Save Soil is a movement that is a global movement that has been advocating for safe soil and how soil is really linked to everything that we're talking about today. And he brings a global perspective linking what's happening on the ground with policy, economics, and large-scale restoration efforts. And you're going to explore that and the work that Save Soil has been doing globally in India mainly and in other countries as well. Welcome, Rico.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Really great webinar so far. I think we have heard from other speakers some essential insights about the soil science and also about what's happening on the ground. I'll dive a little more into, the macro level and looking at like what's happening globally, but also on a systems level. But before that, maybe we can, go to the slides. So when I'm thinking about, restoring soil or restoring, saving soil, then it's really synonymous with restoring hope in my view and what I experienced during my time working on this subject. Maybe before we come to the macro level, also a few words on the ground level on the next slide. We can see, I want to showcase a few examples that we saw in one of our projects where we work with farmers. This project is called Carver Recalling. As part of this project, the foundation I'm working with is, working with especially smallholder farmers for over 25 years. As of now, we have managed to support over 250,000 farmers to make the shift from conventional, industrial agriculture to regenerative agriculture. And it's very inspiring what these farmers are reporting, because the shift is not easy. But still, we have over 90% who observe in the first to the third year that the microclimatic conditions on their land really improve dramatically. They see an increase in biodiversity, in water retention capacity of their soil. And then also consequently, really they see less need for irrigation water. So they save here as well on these expenses. And in addition to this, also in the first to the third year, their input costs decrease dramatically simply because the soil regains its natural fertility, which means there is less need for synthetic fertilizers or pesticides, for example. Apart from that, apart from the restoration that is happening, which is definitely beneficial, also this whole thing we sell to the farmer as an economic model, because yes, they might be interested in the health of the land as well, but for them it's their livelihood, right? So the economic viability needs to be there. This is why after the restoration phase in the first to third year, we also see intercropping benefits. The intercropping that happens as part of regenerative principles gives them much more, let's say, diversity when they offer their product to the market. And this leads to increased profitability in the first to the 10th year. And then even later, looking ahead, after the 10th and 15 years, many reported that they saw a lot of benefits in the appreciating assets on the land, because regenerative and agroforestry means really, integrating, for example, trees in the land. And this is a very nice source for income, high value timber, for example. And this can also be an insurance for the farmers. So I think that showed, or in our experience, we clearly see that, shifting from something that is not so sustainable to something that is much more sustainable is not only an ecological case, it's also an economic case. Next, when we look at the systems level, so this happens on the ground. We also heard from the previous speaker that there are huge benefits for the farmers itself. But on a systems level, it's also very, very interesting for me. I'm an economist by training, and it's really, since I joined the agricultural movements here, that it's really inspiring to see that soil can be at the center of like many crises that we need to solve as a global community. On the right, I just picked out two which are like most relevant for this conversation, I think. I mean, food security is one thing that obviously is the main thing that soil needs to provide to us, right? And to be very honest, on a global level, this experiment never happened, right? On a global level, we never like fed 8, and it will increase to 10 billion people simply by relying on our natural farming systems. But I'm very confident that this would work. And then also when we just see how our system works today, then we see that this cannot go on for much longer. Because as of now, the conventional farming systems, they do a fairly good job, since the Green Revolution in the 70s, 60s, they do a fairly good job in feeding the populations. However, we also see that the soil capital is degrading and degrading and degrading. And at some point, I'm very afraid that we won't be able to substitute, the loss of natural fertility with synthetic fertilizers. And this could lead theoretically to like really, really large scale disasters, famines and large scale migrations because of these food insecurities. Therefore, we really have no other choice but to restore our land. And it's really possible. Apart from this, this view on food security, also climate is the most discussed environmental topic globally these days. We did a few analyses with Safe Soil, and we clearly saw that, for example, if we revitalize soil, then it could absorb up to 27% of the carbon needed to keep the warming under 2 degrees Celsius. Also, a shift from industrial to regenerative farming could also reduce emissions significantly. First in a direct way, simply having less tilling on the ground, for example, alongside other principles. This could lead to less, carbon dioxide, other greenhouse gases escaping the soil into the atmosphere. So this is a direct, way of reducing emissions by shifting. However, also indirectly along the supply chain, here also we can reduce emissions, because if we rely less on chemical fertilizers, we will also reduce emissions from these sectors. Apart from that, also, when we look beyond this greenhouse gas discussion, there is something that Walter Jane, a very renowned soil scientist from Australia, calls the soil carbon sponge. If we restore that, then we will effectively restore the Earth's water cycle, and we will increase evapotranspiration from the land, which will lead to a natural cooling of the Earth. And this really shows that, soil is in the center of many, many things that we need to resolve. Yeah. I think going on, this sounds all good, but we really need to discuss this in detail. Is it really viable and scalable globally? I mean, really on a large scale to shift towards like sustainable agriculture, whatever word is, more convenient for use. This is what I mean, like sustainable agriculture. Regenerative agriculture is the term we use most of the time. And I think for this to be a yes, is it viable and scalable? We need to check 3 boxes. First, it has to be sustainable. We talked about this already. I think by per definition, these more sustainable methods of, managing the land are like more sustainable than the conventional things that we are doing right now. And in addition to this, we add, positive external effects, like I just mentioned, mitigating climate change, adapting to climate change, restoring the water cycle, which cannot come from conventional systems. So the sustainability would be a check. Economic viability, we also touched on this. In our case study, or in our project that I just introduced briefly, and on also many other case studies that are there in the world, we clearly see that this is not only about regeneration of the environment. There is also an economic case, as I mentioned before. So here is also definitely we can check this box. And also looking at comparing this to conventional methods, here we see that over time, the soil is degrading more and more, so you need more and more inputs. So the profits are not ensured long-term here. Much more importantly than for our all survival, really, is the food security on top of the pyramid on the right. I think here, I also touched on this already. In many regions, we can actually see that regenerative yields match or exceed industrial ones, after this initial transition phase. And another advantage is also that during climate extremes, floods, droughts, these healthy soils will be much more resilient. And as we all know, we might very much experience more climate extremes in the future. Okay. So this sounds all very great, but how do we actually make change happen? Especially on if we are as ambitious and say that we want to have this happen on a global level. You know, an approximation from my side is that currently, of all agricultural land on the globe, we have a 10% adoption of some way or the other that could be called sustainable agriculture. There are many different terminologies. I think for conservation agriculture, there's the most data available. For organic agriculture, there's a little data available. For regenerative agriculture, not so much, and there are other systems as well. But I would say, optimistically speaking, actually, 10% adoption of sustainable agriculture, which would lead to all these benefits that we talked about before. And we want to increase this now. How do we do that? I think we have to look at 3 dimensions. The first dimension would be the political one. Without the support of decision makers and legal support, I think we will not be able to do this. This is what Safe Soil is trying to achieve. Bottom-up approaches, grassroots movement are very much needed and very inspiring. However, it will take a long time for all this to actually grow into something that we can say is global. Therefore, we really need, to move legal systems from fragmented laws to more binding laws that actually ensure that soil is protected and revitalized. Also, educations and other means of support are very much needed for the farmers, because otherwise they will feel left alone, especially in the transition phase. This is very much needed as well. Economically, we need monetary incentives for the farmers to adopt these sustainable agricultural practices. Without this, again, especially during the transition period, it will be very difficult for the farmers to take this up. They need this support. One way of doing it would also, for example, to be easing the farmers' access to credit markets. Currently, for smallholder farmers, these credit markets are very, very difficult, if not impossible, to access. This is also something we are working on, advocating for this in global forums to actually make a shift there as well, which could lead to additional income for the farmer. And last but not least, and we touched on this, previous speakers touched on this as well, is I think this is really the fundamental thing that we need to do and what needs to happen in the world. We need to reignite this bond between humans and soil. I think in the centuries before us, before our generation here, this connection between the land and the soil was very much there, is what I believe. And now this is a little lost. I myself come from a city. I see young people all over the world, especially from the cities. They go in these abundantly filled supermarkets, and I don't think they think about where the food is coming from oftentimes. They don't think about the farmer, the soil. And how could they? They never were told that this is actually, there is a long supply chain and many, many people work towards the goal of feeding humanity. So what we are doing with Safe Soil is we have huge public awareness campaigns. We're using the power of social media, traditional media, also the word of mouth, cyclothons, walkathons. We have a huge basis of volunteers who support us all over the world to raise this awareness amongst citizens. And another way of doing it, for example, in a more official, also political supported way, would be to really introduce a food labeling that tells people that, hey, this food comes from healthy soils, which would also, this would reward the farmer because there might be a premium that needs to be paid for this. But then also it informs the consumer. And yeah, so there are many ways of going about this. And I think I could restore your hope a little bit about the future. I think definitely there is hope. And yeah, thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Rico, for your presentation. And it was very insightful in terms of giving it a larger perspective. And we understand that soil is not just, it's a global issue. And it has to be dealt locally, but also thinking globally. Thank you so much to all our speakers. Now we just take a moment to connect the dots. So it's already seen that soil regulates climate and water. It determines our food systems. And soil restoration is not just possible, it's essential. So if that's the case, where do we go next? We're saying that soil changes everything. And if it does, what should we be changing? And that's what we'll be discussing in the next session, which is the panel discussion where we'll have all the 3 speakers come in and answer a few questions. Then we jump into the Q&A. But before that, we'll take just a quick reset, to just get to gauge where we are, all of us, before we get to the next discussion. Cinzia, over to you.
Thank you, Marete, and thank you to all the speakers. That was a very informative session. I've definitely learnt a lot, and just even if it's reiterating some of the things I already know, I think the takeaways have been quite useful. And yeah, just to sometimes re-emphasize some of the information that we already know that it's out there, just that continued engagement around the issues. So we're going to go into our second interactive poll, which I'm putting up the question now, but it is just reflecting on what stood out for you the most, or what is of great interest to you so far based on the discussions that we've been having. I think for me, I really enjoyed Rico's linking it back to linking us back to the soil conversation culturally. Like as humans, I think as development is going on and coming from a place like Nairobi, where, ongoing development and looking to um, progress in a certain way, that definitely that connection to soil, we are losing it. And how do we bring it back to how we are as people, and how do we integrate it to things like development? So it'd be interesting just to hear from our participants, just what has stood out to you? What is of interest to you so far in the discussions? I'm gonna give us like maybe 30, 40 seconds to just give your answers. I'll give maybe another 20 or so seconds, just so everyone can get a chance to fill in a response.
Yes.
So again, just what has stood out to you most, or what is of great interest to you so far from the discussions?
So we see the responses coming in quickly, so you have a few more seconds to go. So of course, we will be heading into the discussion session soon. And so please feel free to put your questions in the chat, but we do encourage you to raise your hand so that we keep it interactive. We do have free speakers with us. We want you to interact directly with them, and we want to thank them. They are, sharing their knowledge, their experience for free. And so that is your opportunity to engage directly with them. And so continue, just open up your screen, respond quickly, just type in your question quickly, and we'll do a quick projection on the screen to see what are some of the commonalities based on the responses. So thank you, everyone. I think now we could go ahead, Zinzi, close off
Yeah.
and project.
Sharing results. Are we seeing some of the responses come through?
Hold on. Okay, I think I may have to share it from my screen. I think with all the updates, Zoom keeps making a lot of things are changing. So I'm just going to snip it and share it on my screen.
Thank you.
So far, well, what has stood out thus far is soil. Soil is right in the middle. I'm guessing a lot of persons are indicating, good presentation thus far. So you see a lot of things coming up: restoration, everything, food development, farmers, forest life. So a number of things are popping up there.
I think we also had some people write their responses in the chat. Maybe I can read out some
Yeah, you
of
could
those.
read out some of those, yes.
Tree planting, sustainable farming, composting, and conservation can restore the soil. All the speakers are amazing. Thank you for gathering these wonderful people in a single platform. What impressed me a lot is how soil regulates climate and water. And just, yeah, great session.
Going to share my screen. Click.
Economic aspects of soil restoration vis-a-vis the government political will to influence policy in the right direction which favors human and the ecosystems.
Okay. So these are the word cloud we got, Zinzi. So soil is right at the center of this main discussion today. So over to you. Okay.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating.
Yeah, thank you so much for participating. We can now head into the next session, which will be the panel discussion. Marete, you can take it from here.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating, for being here until now with us, and for listening in, and for sharing all the impactful things that we're learning and we continue to learn. So we're saying soil changes everything. So if it changes everything, and we do understand that it changes everything, what should we be?
You're breaking up again, Marete. If you could repeat the question again.
So our first question to the panel discussion, and this question goes to all. I need to turn off my video, and I will do that. So our first question to all the speakers is, you all work at the intersection of soil, agriculture, climate change. Where are we? And you're looking at everything that is being done, all the discussions that are going on locally, regionally, and internationally. Where are we over-engineering or over-investing while overlooking the foundational role of soil? And we can have either of you start. All right, we could start with Dr. Chani.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'll jump in here, man. Just keep me online to clarify some of the things. And it's more than just philosophical. I hope you hear me clearly. It is more that, and I want to make it very clear, some of my colleagues, they don't take to it very well. The issue of connection to the soil, it is not an issue of whether we connected to the soil. It is whether we choose to accept that. We cannot escape being connected from the soil. There's no one here that could escape being connected from the soil. Is whether...
Oh, you're breaking.
We're losing you, Charlie.
So that thing about we have to connect. Right. So, yeah.
Are you breaking up a bit? I think we have a global internet challenge today. You could hear us, Chani? Maybe in the meantime, we could take one of the other presenters, either Mercy or Rico, while we try and get Chani back.
I can go first.
Go ahead, Mercy.
Okay. Thank you, Marete. In terms of where we are over-engineering and over-investing, let me highlight 3 things. One, we are over-relying on top-down approaches. It's something that is very common. And it is important for all players to find a convergence between the top-down and bottom-up approaches, because that is where we are going to address some of the challenges we are finding with our smallholder farmers. The other one is, again, over-reliance on the synthetic focused agricultural approaches. It is important that we transition to climate-smart agriculture and regenerative agriculture, and focus more on organic agricultural approaches and also climate-smart ones. And lastly, we have found that we are lacking comprehensive localized legislation. We are also slow in implementing the existing frameworks. And it's a huge gap that needs to be addressed urgently by having legislations that speak to the realities on the smallholder farms, and fast track on the implementation of these framework, because they're going to help the farmers at the very bottom.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Would you repeat the last statement? I think we lost you for a bit.
Sorry about that. I'm
Just
saying
the last.
we have the last one. Okay. I'm saying that we lack comprehensive localized legislation. We are also slow on implementation of existing frameworks. It's a huge gap that needs to be addressed urgently by having legislation that speak to the realities on the smallholder farms, and fast track on the implementation of these frameworks. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can come in here, like I would definitely agree with what Mercy just said. Definitely, we need legal frameworks that support smallholder farmers and that are more grounded in the realities of the farmers. And also, in terms of over engineering, like I think these legal systems that we are having in many parts of the world are simply, it takes a long time to come up with some legal changes. I see this every year now for the past 4 or 5 years, that when you go to these international forums like the UNCCD or UNFCCC, then decision making is just very, very slow. And on the one hand, it's great that the world comes together and tries to find solutions. This is always the basis that I'm saying. It's absolutely great. This was not so for the 99% of human history. So it's amazing. But again, we have to also face the reality that decision-making process is very slow, not only on this international level, but also on the national level. Oftentimes it needs like fast interventions and incentives for the farmers to actually, be able to implement changes on ground. So there is a gap. And one other thing I would like to mention is also, I think, resources, finances are very much needed to make the shift from conventional farming practices to more sustainable ones. And when we look at, what could be the source of these resources, like globally speaking, then we see that there is a large pool of climate finance that is basically ignoring agriculture, food systems, and soil. And there we rely a lot on, in these discussions, climate change discussions, we focus like almost entirely on fossil fuel phase out. This is very much needed. This is absolutely, there's no way about it. But still, we invest in the energy sector so much, which is again like needed. But still, soil is absolutely ignored. And I think these numbers maybe from all the climate finance, billions and billions of dollars, only like 2% reach smallholder farmers. And if this doesn't change, like I think there will be difficulties in making this happen, because simply there is a lack of resources and finances.
Thanks, Mercy and Rico. Chani, you there to probably come back in? Over to you, Marete.
All right. I think as we wait for Chani to come back, we can go to the next question, which is, we've talked about how soil is the foundation, and it seems like there's quite an understanding how foundational it is. But the responsibility for it is often fragmented.
Hold on, Marite, let me just give him access as he had to join back in. He had a little loss of electricity on his end, so let me just give him co-host. So go ahead, Chani.
Yes, thank you very much. I had to change location as well. Let me know if you hear me better now.
Yes.
Okay, so as colleagues, I would have started, and I wanted to make this point clear because I keep hearing it as well. I think that the point is that we've been hearing about the soil connection and we have to connect back to soil. I don't think we have that privilege. Issue of whether we are connected to soil. We cannot be alive if we are not connected to soil in one way. The issue is as to whether we realize that connection and how does that sit within the mindset, the value, and the culture that comes out of it. That is the critical question. And I want to link that to the question that was asked and also some of the work that we have been doing. I think once you recognize that it's inescapable, you cannot be alive without that connection to the soil. Once you realize that and you deepen that realization, then the whole issue as to where your mindset, what does that constitute in terms of a mindset and your value system also becomes the next principal part. And how do you translate that into the way of living, which means that you live a particular way, you prioritize certain things. And this is where the work of advocacy, the work that we have been doing, for example, the Living Soils initiative from ICA, a lot of the work that we have been doing is really just answering the call that, hey, this mindset, this resource is important. Soil is not the issue itself. It is how we treat soil and manage it, and the mindset and the value system. And I think that's one of the places where I am a scientist. We have had the science, but we also need the social scientists. We need the other persons. We need the cultural person. It is not just one area or the other. Soil itself does not work like that. So we need to really bring this thing together in a systematic way, continue advocating for that mindset, which I think will drive things whether on an economic, environmental, or whatever other level that is so important. So I would like to see from at least from where I sit as a professional, not just the continuance evidence-based system for scaling up, for policy, etc., but also the constituent thing that really reflects a human nature, the psychological aspect, the mindset, actually the science going with that, matching with the science that we just talked about in terms of the benefits of soil and ecosystem and the business and the livelihood, etc. I think only then we would have that connection that I think would be sustainable going forward once that mindset is prioritized, that soil is as important as air. If you have a policy for pollution, how come you don't have a policy for soil and protecting your soil? If you have a policy for air, which is not based upon the evidence, but it's simply based upon, if I don't have air, I don't live. Well, guess what? If you don't have soil, you don't live. If soil is a mat under everything, a carpet, and I pull it out under the earth, then you could imagine what happens if that carpet is no longer there. You could imagine the buildings tumbling, a lot of things are tumbling, and we are not even talking about now a disruption in the entire integrity of the process or the cycles as yet. So I just wanted to lay that before we move on to the other question. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much for that and for that strong reminder that soil is everything and it's the foundation. And it's, so then who's, the responsibility for it is often fragmented. Who should ultimately own soil health, and how do we create accountability across government, businesses, and communities? Because sometimes it feels like if you're not interacting with it every day, then I don't think about it. I don't even have to, I will go a whole year without even talking about it. As long as I can access my food from where I'm accessing. We also are in danger now where our children are asked, where does your food come from? And the first thing they tell you is the supermarket, because that's where they're getting their food from. And we're having more populations increase in urban areas and all that. So who should own the ultimate responsibility of soil health when it comes to accountability across sectors, both businesses and those who do not interact with soil every day? Again, either of you can go first.
So the question is, who is most accountable for making this happen?
How do we create accountability across governments, businesses, and communities?
Okay, yeah, I would go back maybe to what we just shared and what also Jenny spoke about, like really reigniting this connection that is undeniable, that is absolutely undeniable. If we don't bring this into people's minds, then I don't think there will be a chance to actually, make these changes happening. So again, what we are trying to do in terms of, improving accountability amongst governments is really approach them as often as we can. Like whenever we go to conferences, whenever we reach out, then we try to take government officials across the world really into consideration and simply talk about the topic. And at the beginning, I was actually, a little taken aback. I was thinking, okay, why would the government talk to an NGO? But actually, oftentimes, like they're very receptive also. And I think if we just don't talk about it, it will not reach the people. So simply raising this awareness amongst all stakeholders, really, being a connector. That is what we try to do with Safe Soil amongst farmers, sharing farmer realities to the people who actually don't know what farmers are going through oftentimes, but also taking into account like other realities, like the ones from finances, businesses. I think this will go a long way if we keep doing that and if everyone is on board.
Yeah. Is there any additions from Chani
Yeah.
or Mercy?
Mercy.
Yeah, go ahead with Mercy. I could come in after, please.
You're still muted, Mercy. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if you no longer have co-host. Okay. You unmute yourself, Mercy. Oh, sorry. Go again.
And it has worked. It has worked.
It's good now.
Okay. So I was saying there is need for incentives for organic inputs and capacity building for smallholder farmers in a way that this is made consistent and sustainable. And when farmers have knowledge, knowledge is power, and they're able to take positive actions. Like tenure security is an issue. We need to do a lot of advocacy around there, which will motivate smallholder farmers to invest in the long term in a sustainable and healthy soil improvements. What is important is that the policymakers need to understand nutritional security and food security lies in restoring soil health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mercy. Dr. Chani?
Yes, I'm here. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Marita, again, I wanted to come in here with the accountability. And I think to a large extent, the question becomes, I'm always wary when we ask that because it tends to come from a place of how do we simplify the accountability? Where do we actually point our fingers at? And I think that the whole issue of soil is all about business, necessitates that the accountability occurs everywhere along all the lines. And while it's simple to say, for example, the funders, the government, etc., what I think is more holistic is who is accounting for your food on your system and your thing? Are you accounting for that? Are you going to remain hungry? I'm not saying that they are not extreme situations. How accountable are you to feed yourself? If you're accountable to feed yourself and to breathe, well, guess what? You're accountable for issues related to soil as well because of the connectivity. And so it is not an either or, whether it's at a micro level. The whole society, how civilization is built, it is built with individual accountability and also collective accountability. And so therefore the issue is, let's start off with your individual, or let's recognize the individual and also recognize the different pathways as we go to the macro aspect as well. And so again, every single person is accountable for the issues related to soil and whatever downstream things that are connected to it. And I would want to see a system where once we recognize that, the advocacy or the action to save this resource, to use it as best as we can, translates into that action and have that global effect that we know it could have over.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Chani. That comes to brings an end to the panel discussion. We're opening up the room for comments, questions, and it's time to interact and hear everyone who's been in the room and has questions and comments. And I can see there is a hand raised already. There is Deepak.
Right, so persons are muted. So once you raise your hand, we will request that you unmute yourself. We do have some questions in the chat that we'll take interchangeably. Go ahead, Deepak.
Hi, I just want to say, if I were close, I would have given a big hug to Mercy, Chani, Rico, and the organization which brought this together. Merete, Zinzi, Nikelia, oh, amazing. This has been a fantastic 1 hour or so for me. And I work with soil regeneration, rainwater harvesting, basically regenerative farming consultancy. That's what I do full time in India. And we have a couple of projects in South Africa and Ghana as well. So for which we are soil consultants. This has been a very, very amazing, webinar. One thing we missed, one link which can be very crucial to educate and take this up are the children, the children, the children in schools, the children in colleges, and studying in the universities. So we work with children here, we work with youngsters here, and the mothers still in the cities, they say, oh, don't touch. They never allow the children to walk bare feet on the soil. So these are the problems. This is why our health is bad, because there is no connection to soil for the children in the city. So this is what I think, when we ask children in very good schools, where does the milk come from? They say dairy. And I ask, where does the rice come from? They say Amazon, because the mother is ordering it on Amazon.com. That's what the children know. So this is where we have to bring in, educate children, let them play with soil. The school should have mini gardens. Many schools nowadays, the alternate schools are trying to do this. They're giving small patches to children, making them grow their own vegetable. We go do workshops for them, make them touch cow manure, make them touch soil, get their hands dirty. So and it is so amazing. So children is what the link we are missing. I'm sure even Rico is working with Save Soil Foundation, and he will agree with me. Even in India, this is very much lacking, and so that's what I feel. The disconnect here. Whom should we do we need to reach the corporates? Do we need to reach the government? Yes, the children first. Let's grow and reach out to children. All the people who are working with soil. Let's reach out to children. Let's reach out to children in cities, in our apartment complexes, where let us tell them why it is important. Show them the microbial life is that they are the real farmers. So this is what we have to do. So I just wanted to share this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Deepak. I think thank you so much. I think I could see Chani giving a big grin, Rico also nodding his head along, of that integrating the kids. How do you exactly start people from young kids? I don't know. So if from those reactions, I don't know if Chani or Rico, you want to add anything to what Deepak said, or you're good for us to move on to the next question?
I will just add that we definitely agree with it, and we have been working. We have some material, the comic books, the hero. So we will be sharing it in the chat, or perhaps subsequently. Definitely, we admire that, and we will work together on that. ICA has been doing a lot of work in collaboration with other institutions as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Rico, Mercy?
Yeah, please, Mercy.
Go ahead, Rico.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I completely agree with what was said. Like, definitely, looping in children is absolutely important. And I think also with Save Soil, we wanted, I think it didn't happen yet, but we also wanted to do a school book, or not a school book, a book in general for kids, like where we emphasize soil and, have some stories around it. So this was one idea. Also reaching out to schools is what we do locally, giving presentations in schools as well. This is also what happens here in South India, where I'm based at the moment. So this can go a long way. Also, I'm the global focal point of the UNCCD youth constituency. And this also means that we actively try to engage young people, not only small children, but also high school students, college students, in the whole process. Will their opinion matter in the large scale, in the high level decision making? Probably not, if we are being honest, but they learn a lot along the way, and they also see what the problems are. And I think, therefore, these youth constituencies and youth groups internationally are also a great way of integrating children in the whole process.
Yeah, just to add, we also work with smallholder farmers at household level, and we encourage their children, those who are in school, those who are in colleges, to participate in the forest garden activities in a way to instill these values of environmental stewardship, creating more change agents in a way to ensure that this program is sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm seeing the link of that knowledge advocacy, but also knowledge building, and knowledge building from, things like books that kids can read, but I'm sure, even adults can engage and interact with that. So I'm going to take two more questions from the audience, and then we're going to go to the chat. So I'll have Davy.
Hi, good evening, good morning, good night, everyone. My name is Dr. David Lele. I'm a soil scientist, and I am encouraged to sit and listen to what is going on. As we are so much aware that there is a generational shift where the old population are the one dealing with the soil, while the young ones are not. The major problem is from the old generation, children have not been introduced to the soil. And there are many ways. The way as we were introduced, we were being given small plots. As a child, then you are told that is yours, you plant whatever you planted, then you would sell and you would get money. I suggest that apart from introducing this issue of soil to the school, the children should also be encouraged to visit the research stations where they will learn. I was doing some work with some children one time, and they could not even hold the soil. They said, that is dirt. And I said, no, you need to hold the soil because that's everything. You eat from the soil, you do everything from the soil. So the soil is the foundation of everything. So as much as we would look at just the technical knowledge that we have, we also have the local knowledge. And the local knowledge is the knowledge that has been passed on down the generation, which somehow there is a disconnect where the population, the older population now say the children are not even supposed to touch the soil. They are supposed to go to school and do everything. But it is supposed to be, children are supposed to learn, to understand, to have the practical knowledge, because soon the people who are doing a lot in food production and the like, they will not be there. So what would happen to the future of the earth if there is nobody to till the soil? Because everybody wants to do tech, to go to white collar job and the like. So what would happen to the future? Will there be farming? So it is upon us as scientists, farmers, and the community at large to come up with solutions to ensure that we have our children, we have the generation coming in to help to ensure that there is a connection between humankind and food production as well as health. Soil health plays critical ways in which it can help control the health. It produces food. It does everything. So I believe that is the direction. We need to go back to the ground, show the children that soil is not that, but soil is where we get food. Soil is where we build our houses. Soil is where we get everything, whether it is good hair, good whatever, it is the soil. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lele. I think something you pointed out that I would like to pose to our panelists, is that integration of traditional knowledge. Yourselves being scientists and working with more, science institutions, how do you ensure that you're incorporating, traditional knowledge and practices within the communities that you work with? And that can be to any of the speakers.
The forest garden approach for trees for the future is highly integrated. We have both indigenous varieties, we have indigenous trees within, we are using a lot of green manure in the forest garden, we are making compost from all the materials they are harvesting from the forest garden. It is quite diverse, culturally adaptive in ways that the communities feel comfortable implementing and owning it up.
Thank you. Rico, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, maybe just saying how we go about it in our projects is often, this knowledge is definitely there, and there are many people who are aware of, things on how to work with the soil in a manner that is both beneficial for, supporting their livelihoods, but also be sustainable in an ecological sense. And what we do is we have model farmers. So we really rely on like peer-to-peer learning systems when we work with farmers on the ground. Because like if I'm going there and I have not worked on a farm so much, like why would they listen to me? Like I would not listen to myself or anyone else or politician, But this works very well, peer-to-peer farmer, supporting each other. And oftentimes there is one model farmer who has been doing this for a long time, who has this traditional knowledge, and for whom it has worked also. And we put really these people, we give them a lot of opportunities and also publicity to actually go out there and share their knowledge. Be it in mass training sessions where these model farmers get, a venue where they really can talk about their knowledge and other farmers listening to them really carefully, because what they want to see in the end is, what they want to know in the beginning is, does this actually work and secure my livelihood? And if these model farmers go there and they see that they are successful and inspiring, and also they restore the soil, then there is no doubt left in the other farmers' mind that they can also take this up.
Thank you. Dr. Chani, I see you're back. Would you like to just add how you integrate that traditional knowledge with the work that you guys do?
Yeah, no problem. That forms the entire ESA's mandate is technical cooperation, and a lot of the agriculture is upon evidence, and the traditional knowledge is hard evidence for us as well, that we combine with that, particularly for contextualizing and particularly for continuity. So a lot of our practices, a lot of the systems, the knowledge generation, and also the knowledge imparting and action is informed by a combination of that and localization with the kids as well. So again, a full participatory system that we have used. We have been here for almost 80 years. It has given us a chance to master some of these knowledge, and also that relationship with not just the governments, but also on the ground level. We have in every country that we are in about 45 countries. We have, so it allows that amassing of the traditional knowledge contextualization to ensure that our evidence-based reflects the contextualization that is very important for continuity. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know if we're all looking at these amazing, I guess, clips of the comics, Agriman Adventures.
Yes, that is the first agriculture superhero by Y-Farm out of Trinidad and Tobago. So we have collaborated with them over the years. ICA have collaborated with them also on the projects, to develop some kid-friendly, which the adults are loving as well. So I shared the links in the chat. It's available for free. It also have the activity books. We call them activity books to go with them. So for those with children, you could download them and share it with your kids, have them learn a bit more about soil in a fun. So I see we have a few other persons' hands up. Hold on.
Yeah, let me go. I mean, those comics really excited me, but let me focus on the Q&A segment. So we'll take a question from Ginny, and then I want us to go into some of the questions we've been getting in the chat. So Ginny, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm in the Bahamas. We actually do commercial composting. So this is really very excellent to hear everybody and everybody's ideas. We do quite a lot with the using our soil, our unsifted compost, which we donate to schools. And we have a couple of people who have really done amazing programs within the schools itself. I think one of the biggest problems is how to translate that from when a student leaves, graduates, and then, continues, how to make that happen. But I'm also originally in waste. I'm still in garbage. And, that is, as we all know, one of the biggest contributors to methane is the burying of food waste and green waste in landfills, where it gets covered and compacted and then emits methane. I think maybe a third of the methane emissions in the world come from landfills, green waste and food waste. And so we have tried, just as a thought, which we're still trying, is to get more of the hotels, because we do have a lot of hotels. We're a tourism-centered economy, to start to divert their food waste, and that, you know, that's going back to what Rico said about, you know, financing being available is mainly available for sort of air remediation and energy changes, etc. Whereas in fact, a really low-hanging fruit is just to stop landfilling food waste and trying to just divert it and get it into a composting system. We're the only one that I sort of know of that's on a commercial basis. So on a, you know, we have a big tub grinder and everything in the Caribbean, but there's huge opportunity, but it is hard to move the needle. It's hard to make people in government understand just how it impacts us and how ultimately it will be detrimental if we don't deal with it for the very environment that we're constantly making our money out of through tourism. But thank you so much. This has been great. Looking forward to the rest of the session.
Thank you, Ginny, for that comment. I don't know if any of the speakers have any reflection or anything they'd like to add to what Ginny has said. If not, we could move on to some of the questions in the chat.
Before we go to that, Ginny Chani has to leave as he is out on mission in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, out in the field again, doing the work on the ground. So if we could just, have him give a closing before he leaves us now as we wrap up this session. Chani, go ahead.
Yes, colleagues, thank you very much, and community, thank you very much. It has been an ideal pleasure. I want to wish everybody a soil-filled day, and a soil-fun day. Not only the serious talk, but let's have fun with soil. Let's move it together, and I hope to meet up with you again. And thank you for being part of this wonderful webinar, and let's work together. Take care. It was nice meeting you and sharing as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Over to you, Zinzi. You could probably take one of the questions in the chat, or
Yeah,
two
let me do that.
go to
Yeah.
us.
Let me do that. So there's a question for Mercy. You work a lot across African communities. In Zimbabwe area, women are often the first to notice soil degradation, but the last to be included in land management decision. How is Trees for the Future designing agroforestry programs to put women farmers at the center of soil restoration, not just as beneficiaries?
Thank you. Trees for the Future works with smallholder farmers, and we encourage household heads to enroll in the program, both men and women. And currently, over 50% of the farmers that we have in the program are women. So they are allowed to participate, they are included, they have the opportunities to transform their lives through the forest garden approach. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take another question from the chat. Rico, the triangle shows soil is the center, but in Zimbabwe, the transition period is where women farmers drop out. The transition period where farmers drop out. How do we finance that 3 to 5 year gap so communities don't choose between soil health and feeding their families? And I think, linking it all back to even just what Ginny was talking about, that financing aspect. How do we get the money flowing into the soil conversation?
Yeah, that's a very, very relevant question. Thank you for that. So this is also something that we were looking into from the beginning when the movement started. Because again, without any support, like the transition will be super, super difficult. I mean, this is on two levels, right? This is not only on the monetary level, this is also on the level of simply learning a new skill, right? Because if you have done, for example, conventional agriculture your whole life, you need to learn how to go about things differently. So this is one part of it. But if you want me to touch on the financial part, first of all, then I would say there are a few things that we can do. I mentioned a few things already. I mean, governments could incentivize, farming practices that are sustainable. in a way that rewards farmers simply by adopting these practices when they adopt it. Oftentimes our incentives are outcome based. This means, for example, you get a financial reward after you have, increased the soil organic carbon by a certain percentage, or you have sequestered so much carbon in your soil. Then you get a reward after, let's say, 3 to 5 years. But this will not help because you need this monetary, this support. You need it from the beginning. So what we are also saying is we could shift from an outcome-based incentivization to a process-based incentivization, which means if the farmer implements practices that have proven to actually increase soil organic carbon, sequester more carbon, for example, if this is the angle we want to look at things, then we could reward them from year one because he's doing the right thing. So he should get the reward right away. This is one way of doing it. There are many other ways. The other way would be, again, access to carbon markets could be there. This is one way, but this is far off, so let me not dive into detail here. And the other way is also funds and simply, giving out loans either with no interest or like in a very attractive way. This would be one other thing. But like grants and really funding this would also be possible because we see subsidies flowing into, for example, the energy sector in huge amounts. Also, we see subsidies flowing into, the fertilizer sector, huge amounts. If we just, would take this money and actually make it available for smallholder farmers, then, there would be some security for these farmers. Also, I can share one thing. I'm from Germany. So in Europe, for example, the security is given by everyone who has land and produces agricultural products on this land is subsidized per hectare of the farmland. So this means that if you have farmland and you produce something which supports the whole society by producing food and other stuff, then you get a reward right away. It doesn't even matter what you do. Actually, this system is also kind of messed up because farmers who destroy their soil get the same subsidy in the beginning per hectare subsidy as farmers get who do like sustainable practices. But still, there is the security there. I know this is not possible everywhere in the world, but this is why I'm also saying like we need the global community coming together to redirect these finances towards places where it is really needed. And I think there is a possibility there, but we have to advocate for this as a community who cares for this.
Thank you, Rico. In the interest of time, I am going to go to the 3 hands that we have raised in the chat. But if you could please keep your questions very brief, 30 seconds, and directed to a particular speaker so we could move, so we were able to fit all your questions within the time. We can go with Boaz.
Yeah, Boaz, please
Taking care of everything on the phone.
No? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, really, really nice following the discussions and to see my former colleague, Mercy, talking and sharing quite a lot. Really nice to hear from you. I think my contribution was just an observation that often we look at soils from really in isolation, as if it's there. But if we're able to look at soils from a point of food quality, because it drives the quality, not just the volumes that we're talking about. Safety, if soils is polluted, then we also find ourselves challenged. And these benefits and raise awareness of what we are consuming from that angle, we could also influence how we manage our soils and how we produce our foods. So I think it's just a contribution that we need to look at it not as in isolation, but in the context of many other areas, health, which is a real thing that will cause one to think twice on how their foods is produced, and therefore we will invest in its conservation. Just a quick comment on that, but really appreciate the discussion that has happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Boaz. And I think a very important comment and contribution, linking it to, yes, our health as people on the planet. It's not just about looking at things in isolation. Julius, over to you.
Sure, thank you. So for me, it's just an observation that I've seen. let's say in the traditional African societies, I'm from Kenya, and we had a very robust and very good soil conservation practices. And with technology and increase in population, the practices have gotten messed up. And now what I have seen is a paradox here. With technology, especially the most advanced countries, I live in the US, they have a very robust soil conservation practices, and I do not think we are messing our soils, especially in the developing world, for lack of education. Kenyans are very much aware of what soil conservation is. So my question is, where have we gone wrong? Because I would think with more technology, with more advanced technology, we would have, poor soil conservation practices. We have them better in the Western world, but not in developing world with high technologies as well. So where is the gap? Why are we experiencing this?
Rico, you can go ahead. I can see you nodding vigorously.
Yeah, because like it's a good question, and I also pondered on this like a lot of times. And I think, where did we go wrong? How did we get into this mess of soil degradation worldwide, right? I think we have to look back until the beginning of the 20th century, where the population exploded all over the world, right? We had, like, I don't know, 1.2 billion people on this earth, I think, in the beginning of the 20th century, and then in the end of the century we had like 7 billion or so. To feed all these people, some change was needed in our agricultural systems, and this change was called the Green Revolution, right? This happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and this Green Revolution was absolutely great when it came to feeding the populations, right? Like, only because of the modifying the genes of crops, only because of the fertilizers, of the pesticides, we were actually able to feed like that huge amount of additional human beings on that planet. So in that sense, I can understand that previous generations like started relying on that, because let's be honest, like, it worked out great in terms of securing food security. However, we overlooked this gave us some convenience and comfort, I guess, in the world that the world has never seen. Like, we had less famines in many regions where previously it was very hard, and that simply means that we relied on, because of that comfort that came with it, we relied on it, and we overlooked the environmental degradation that was happening. And I think this is exactly where the problem was lying. Like, there was a lack of awareness of, okay, this is all great, food security is increasing, but our environmental natural capital is not taking into account. Now we see the shift happening on a global scale. Like, people take it into account. We have these webinars, these discussions, which are very crucial to raise awareness. And I think we have to keep doing that. And I think slowly things will change.
Thank you. I'll take the last question from Korede.
So while we take the question from Korede, you could correct us. We're going to launch a feedback poll. We know many of you have to leave, and we are also wrapping up. So just so, and you have already launched it, Zinzi.
Hi.
So just 1 second, Corey. So the feedback poll has been launched. So just check on your screen just to give us a little feedback, how you feel about this session, if you're interested in any future sessions, going a little bit in depth. And so thank you, Corey, for joining us. And we hand over to you for your comment or question. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, Nicola. How you doing? Okay, well, thank you for allowing me to ask the question. I started a project where I encourage a lot of farmers, specifically in Guyana, in South America, encouraging a lot of farmers to use bio inputs, biofertilizers, and whatnot. And what I find is the issue is not even trying to convince the farmers to switch from chemical to bio inputs. The issue is with the professionals in the agricultural sector, is with me even trying to connect with the Ministry of Agriculture. It's me trying to connect with the National Agricultural Research Extension, because I would assume that with me sort of heading in a green direction and, just having this good concept, it has been very, very challenging and very difficult in trying to master how do I get into a market, but then at the same time, um, like connect with the right people. Because technically, if the right people are not encouraging me, that are supposed to encourage me, I don't know. It's like, it's the wildest thing. And I'm sorry, like maybe if I'm going there, I am going there because it's been very, very shocking, very disappointing that the people that are supposed to pretty much be in alignment and to empower me, right? To just keep doing what I'm doing and support the environment and farmers, it's been the opposite. So I just want to get some type of advice, some type of feedback, because my back is against the wall. I don't know what to do. The system is so like I honestly, I mean, some like, I'm sorry, let me just also say this. When I talk to the average Joe, when I engage, and I think I sent you an email, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, did you talk to Nari? Did you talk to Nari? Have you gone to the Ministry of Agriculture?" Well, yes, I did. They brushed me away. They discouraged me. It's just been a damaging process. And Guyana is supposed to be the food hub, the food haven for the Caribbean. But again, I need somebody to help me understand, what do I do if the professionals are not encouraging me to go in the direction that I'm supposed to go? Because it's not even really coming from the farmers, which I thought that would be the issue.
Thank you, Corrado. I think, I mean, Mercy can give some context working with smallholder farmers in Africa. I mean, I'm not really sure with because it's also different context and region, but I think she could give some insights on how she has helped farmers on the continent, navigate it. I don't know if Rico or even Nikelia have some insights on just, yeah, I guess we all exist in different contexts, and appreciating that and being able to see, I guess, how can we brainstorm through some of the some of the hurdles that we come across. I mean, different contexts, but the idea around these discussions is to help sort of co-create and co-share ideas,
Yeah, thank you, Senzi. I have worked with smallholder farmers, and I have also engaged the stakeholders at national, at county level, at the local level. You have to be able to manage the stakeholders' expectations. For them to buy in, to support you, they must see how your program is going to support their communities. What are the benefits? How is it going to be sustainable? For us, we work with the smallholder farmers, and we engage all the stakeholders at different levels. And most important is to make sure that the communities have tangible benefits, and they are so real. And the communities can also witness that they have benefited, they are benefiting, they see the future of the program you're implementing or you're proposing to implement with them. It's about having tangible and sustainable benefits for you to have the stakeholder buying in. And it has to be very clear exactly what you're implementing, what are the objectives, what are the deliverables, what are the long-term impact in the environment, how you are managing grievances. Communities will have disputes, communities will have issues. for you to be able to succeed in this kind of platforms, you need also to have a grievance redress mechanism. And also you need to manage the stakeholders so that you are able to have a program that is managing all aspects to ensure that the communities you're working with or farmers you're working with benefit. And also, like Boaz was saying, even as we work in our programs, most of the chemicals that are being used, there's a lot of chemical loading on the environment. Even as we work on the soils, we are supposed to do the restoration of what has already been damaged. We need to train the communities on how to restore what has been degraded, on how to make sure that they are eating healthy, to make sure that they are not being sick, and you're implementing a program that's supposed to make them very healthy. So ownership, and especially women in the program, because they identify their challenges with what they see in their program. If they are able to see they are going to get solutions to the challenges they face every day, they are going to be able to embrace your program and
Thank
own
you,
it up.
Mercy.
And thank you.
Mercy, sorry. I'm going to have to cut you a bit short
It's
because
okay.
in the interest
Yeah.
of time, but thank you so much for just helping. I mean, I hope that's given some insights for Corredo, just how she can sort of approach it given her particular context. I'm going to now end the poll, the feedback poll, and hand it over to Marete and Nekelia to do our closing and next steps after this webinar.
Thank you, Nzinzi, and thank you everyone again who stuck around with us until this time. And it's just clear how much these conversations are needed, and how we need to continue learning, unlearning, and discovering new things. Because when you start talking about soil, as I said, you're really discovering the essence of who we are as a people. We cannot continue separating ourselves. And it's really one of those things that I go home with, that what comes out from this discussion is that when we change how we perceive and understand soil, then also we change how we shape the future. It's super necessary in terms of even interacting with the young people, bringing them on board, making it interesting, and not just interesting, but bringing the problem closer home to a point that we can no longer afford to ignore it. Whether I am a tech expert, I have to think about soil. Whether I am a driver somewhere, I have to think about soil, because when all these climatic conditions happen, they're not just affecting the farmer or the scientist who is working with soil every day, it's everybody who is who is affected by them. So we have to think about it. So thank you, everyone. It is essential that we continue these conversations. We're hoping to do much more and hosting more of these conversations so that we can continue interacting. And you can follow us on LinkedIn, the Allure of Soil, Instagram, the Allure of Soil, and you can also check out our website. So we're looking to have more collaborative partnerships so that we can have these conversations where experts have conversations with everyone and find solutions. So I will let Nekelia do her final closing. But from me, thank you so much. And we look forward to interacting with you more in our next session. Could be a webinar, it could be a soil story, or it could be just in other farm tours that we get to hold. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marete. Of course, we always try our best to take all the questions, and given that Callista did raise the hand, we'll just take you, Callista, and then we will, I will just close up and let you know what's next on the agenda for the CCRAF. Go ahead, Callista. You can unmute yourself. You would need to, okay. Go ahead again. Try again, Callista. You should get the notification requesting for you to unmute. Okay. So maybe Callista is not there with us. Okay, so with that, we will wrap up. I'm not sure if Mercy or, oh God, or Rico, you just want to give 30 seconds quick giveaway in terms of the presentation, the topic, the soil, before we close off. Mercy, you want to take first?
Thank you. This was encouraging, and it's an honor for me to have presented in this forum. I take home the discussions that have happened today, the importance of soil and its health, and it's a foundation for many things that happen in our environment. For Trees for the Future, we continue to plant and grow trees to build healthy soils, strong food systems, and transform smallholder farmers' livelihoods and landscapes using our signature model, the forest garden approach. Thank you. Being here is both an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much, Mercy. And over to you, Rico. Any last statements you'd like to leave us with?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this and inviting me as well. I would just say, like, what I often give away in these kind of forums, we are all people who are interested in this topic in the first place. So we are not people who necessarily need to be convinced that soil is important. So this is why I want to say, like, let's really try to, as a global community, to actually do not really differentiate between, like, what we are saying in the end. In the end, we all want the same thing. We maybe come from different perspectives, different backgrounds, and like we look at the thing in different ways. We have different language to talk about soil health and how to promote it actually globally or locally. But let's always keep in mind that we have one shared mission, and this is what we want to bring to the people who have not yet understood the value of soil. So this would be my last words. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rico. Of course, Chani did give his last giveaway before he left us. And so with that, I want to say thank you so much to Mercy and to yourself, Rico, for accepting our invitation to share your knowledge, to share your experience, encourage us to continue pressing on, even if it can be very challenging. I want to thank Zinzi and Marete of the Allure of the Soil for, collaborating with the CCRAF on the road. The CCRAF. So the platform is available for persons interested in sharing the knowledge. And so this has been a milestone for us, working a bit more in connecting the knowledge between Africa and the Caribbean. There is lots and lots that we can learn from each other. There is a lot that is working for us. Some of us, as Rico was saying, we say it in different ways, different languages, but a lot of it is the same. And so learning from each other is very, very important, sharing that knowledge from across the region. So I want to say thank you very much to the presenters today and to Allure of the Soil in collaborating with us on this session. Of course, the CCRAF, we do have lots and lots of initiatives. I know many of you reach out to us. Again, it can be challenging as we cannot cater to everyone, which I know many persons tend to think ICA is a donor agency. Unfortunately, we are not a donor agency. We provide, technical services as it relates to the agriculture sector. I know I do get a lot of requests on financing and so on, but unfortunately, what we do at ICA, we do write in terms of mobilization of resources. We do write a lot of projects through the GCF and a lot of these donors. And many of the times, the outputs for these are very specific and does not really allow for, especially if it's an individual making a request. Even with many of the donors, that there has been that shift where they look at working more with communities, organizations that are registered. And so many times where it tends to work a little best is if you come with a collective voice rather than an individual voice, making it clear the impact of the work that you are doing. And of course, the person always wants to see how they are benefiting. So when you are going out there and pitching out a lot of those things, you have to do it in a collective voice, but also they have to see how it's benefiting them. As with, life in general, when people ask us to help them with things, in the end, we also look at sometimes, not all of us, but sometimes in some circumstances, what is the benefit out of me putting in the effort as well? And so coming up next on our CCRAF agenda, we are heading on the road to Grenada. So we have in our first CCRAF on the road in Grenada this year, starting on the 18th of May. And so that is just about a week and a half away. So we will be in Grenada. We'll be reaching out to some of you. If we do not get you because some of your mailboxes are full, just please reach out to us and we could connect on the ground in Grenada. Also, in terms of the three-part webinar series, I will be sharing the certificates by next week. So just look out for those. Please check your junk mail if you had not received it by next week Friday. If you do not receive it, just send me an email in case it may get blocked or something. I can send it to you again. Also, we would have discussed a bit on the virtual tour of the hydroponic system that Ms. Sherian in her presentation, many of you requested that. We are planning this, and so we will provide more details on that soon. And we are also looking on how we can also facilitate in terms of a more specific, more detailed mushroom training, but that would be for later in the year as we would need to seek opportunities for any kind of funding. So for CCRAF on the road, we are looking for persons to collaborate with us. If you want to sponsor either financially or in kind, please reach out to us so we can collaborate, visibilize the work that you're doing, and help support the development of the agriculture sector in Grenada and the region by extension. Of course, we will continue working with Ally of the Soil to keep the connect, the Africa-Caribbean Connect. And so upcoming events, please follow our website. You could go, the CCRAF has a website, Ally of the Soil have a website. CCRAF for persons who are on social media, you can go to our Facebook, LinkedIn, and X pages. We also have a repository, so all of this you can access directly through the CCRAF website. The recording of this session will be uploaded to the CCRAF YouTube channel, and you can also access all our past sessions on our YouTube channel. So you could just search for CCRAF or the Caribbean Climate Responsive Agriculture Forum on YouTube. So with that, I want to say thank you again to all our presenters. Thank you, Marete and Zinzi. And thank you to all of you who joined us today and stayed on with us, and definitely looking forward to collaborating with you. Any of you who may want to share, the platform is available. Just reach out to us and we'll assist you in organizing a session. So again, thank you, and I wish all of you a pleasant day and continuation of the week. Goodbye. So I will unmute everybody now. Let me just see how I get that done. So persons can say a little goodbye. Et voila.
Goodbye.
So goodbye, everyone. So you're free to unmute yourself
Bye.
now.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a lovely
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Very good
Really good
information.
session.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Nicola.
Bye, everyone. Nice
Bye,
seeing all
everyone.
of you on.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Ciao.
Kelia.
Bye, Deepak. Have a good
Namaste.
one,
Thank
Deepak.
you. Happy Mother's Day to all you wonderful women.
Yes, thanks to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day coming up. Hi, Laura. Nice to see you on.
To see you. Hello, hello. See you
Yeah.
Bye,
soon.
Laura.
Great session.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, bye, bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.